Well, hello YouTubers, it's been a while, so it's time for me to make another video, start another repair. This particular radio that I'm going to be working on is a Zenith Model 6D030. Was built in 1946, 6-tube design. This one is a little rough. It's been stored away for a long time and hasn't seen a lot of love in a couple decades. This was one of two Zenith models designed by Charles, and I think it's pronounced Ames. It's E-A-M-E-S, and you can leave me a comment and correct me if that's not the right way to say it, but I think that's right. Charles and his wife, Bernice Kaiser Ames, whose nickname was Ray, ran their own design firm from 1943 until Ray's death in 1988. Their firm made a lot of significant contributions to modern architecture and furniture in the post-World War II era. So we're past Art Deco at this point. So this is really the arts and crafts here, I guess you could call it. Again, if you disagree with that, you can leave me a respectful comment. But they made contributions to modern architecture at the time and furniture. They also worked in graphic design, fine art, film. So, interesting couple, and probably, depending on your age, if you grew up like when I did, you probably had some chairs in your house that were some of their design. But anyway, so this is rough. I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to undo these screws on the bottom. They're just two. I thought there was more. And we'll pop these off and we'll see if we can slide it out and see what kind of condition it's in on the inside. Okay, so I haven't undone the chassis screws yet, but let's just take this off, see what we've got. I noticed this says 6D030E, it looks like, or maybe, I can't tell if that's an F or an E, and underneath Z. So there was something about Z. I'll look that up and see what that is. I'll add that to the video later on. I think that might mean this was a later model. So let me see if I can unhook that antenna. Off come the little knobbies. Those will get a clean up later on. Started to ease this out. I don't know if you can see right there. It looks like a rock. I believe that is a mud dauber's nest. So let me try and move that somewhere out of the way so I can pull this thing out. That's going in the trash. Alright, let me get this out of the way. That'll get some love later, the cabinet. There's several different ways I could refinish that. We'll talk about that when we get there. Alright. There we go. Another insect infestation there. A little dead guy. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's look underneath and see what we've got. It doesn't appear. Let's do it this way. It does not appear that that's been, I don't think that's been messed with at all. Some of these resistors look awfully clean, but I don't think they've been changed. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is more. I just cleaned off my worktop surface here, and now it's all dirty again. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is maybe take this outside somewhere with a brush, see if I can't clean it up a little bit, re-clean up my top here, and then we'll be back. Okay, I took that somewhere where I could clean it up without getting dust all on my workbench here. It's better, but it's still dirty. Always cover your speaker or you're going to regret it. So while I cleaned it up, I took a good look at it. I didn't see any wires disconnected. I didn't see any broken resistors. I'm sure there's some caps that are bad, but I'm going to try to see if I can't do a little power-up test here and see what we get. So let's plug that in there. Okay, and I put the knob back on the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on. And I'm going to apply some voltage. I have a very low glow on that, on the bulb. Probably in this light will not be able to see filaments. Let's let it go for a second. One of the things I can tell you is screwed up is look where the dial pointer is. Oops. That's not going to line up with, you know, obviously that should be over here on the other side. So something's awry there. We'll have to take care of it. Okay, let's go up another. Nothing. Silence. That's bugging me. Whoa.
Newly introduced European technology is now available. It has proven to be over 85% successful in treating erectile dysfunction. Medical professional and local top doctor for erectile dysfunction, Dr. Ronald Brown.
Erectile dysfunction. Right the first time. In fact, professional technicians have
Let's bring that up to 100 volts.
Their professional parts people will even test your battery free
Lord have
of
mercy.
charge when you visit a router.
Ourselves. What is not clear yet is whether Joe Biden had any secret stakes in any other.
Note the third. If ever before in the history of this country, we need your vote. Vote for yourself.
So that creates kind of a conundrum in my mind, because that's actually working a lot better than some other radios I've restored. But I can't really leave it in this state. I don't hear any hum whatsoever, and that's the filter cap. It's got to be not in good shape. And I haven't tested the tubes, of course, but if it's working that well, they must be in pretty good shape. I don't know. That kind of makes me wonder, should I just clean it up and leave it? or should I get in there and at least change the caps out? You know, do the usual, change the caps out and out of tolerance resistors to give it another 50, 60, 70, 80 years. I don't know. I'm going to think about that. Okay, well, I ponder what I want to do with the electronics, all the goodies under the chassis. While I'm thinking about that, let's address the rest of what needs to happen in this radio. Let's see if I can get some light in here. So, all this is going to need to come out. We'll pop these out. It's mostly staples. This doesn't really look like it's installed particularly well. I can't believe that this would be the way this would go into the factory. This is not really tied down anywhere, and it's actually stapled on over here, but we'll pull it out. And I did order a new dial cover. We're going to see in a few minutes, I think, that I got the wrong thing. There's more than one style that goes in this radio, but hopefully it'll be okay. So we'll look at that in a second. But for now, let's go ahead and pop all these little staples in here and get this stuff out. See if that's good enough to get that off. Oops. It must be because the thing fell off. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Good. That's great. Now I can work on this separate from everything else. So, boy, does it look ugly right now. The only other thing here is there's a light that comes on when you turn the power switch on that shines through here. I'd like to get that off too. I wonder how that is probably glued in. I wasn't really worried about that, but I took an X-Acto knife and started around the edges of it, and it just popped off. So we'll do some cleaning up on that too, and then when we get ready to reinstall, we'll just do a little glue and put it right back in place. This cabinet looks like it's had water or something splashed up against it. I don't know. It's got a splotchy look. And so to try to get that off, I'm going to start with steel wool and lacquer thinner. And I want to do that to it. And then I want to take a look at it and see what we might want to do next. So after the lacquer thinner, still wasn't really happy with what I saw. So I'm going to go back over this with first this rough sander, and then I'll hand sand with two increasingly finer grits of sandpaper to try to get the finish as clean and smooth as I can. So this was the original grill cloth on the radio, and as you can tell, it not in bad condition, but it certainly is dirty. So we're going to try to clean this. I don't think I'm going to replace it, and I'm going to try this supposedly dry fabric cleaner I don't know. We'll see if it works. It's not dry. So the suggestion is to wait 3 to 5 minutes and then wipe with a clean cloth. So we're going to do that. I'm going to wait 3 to 5 minutes and then we're going to wipe it off and see what happens. What am I going to do with this? Okay, that one cleaned up, I think, pretty nicely. This one I can still see a little bit here. I may repeat this process. It said you can repeat it several times. On this one I think is fine. I'm just going to leave it like it is. So I'm going to do this one more time, and that's going to be it for trying to clean this. Okay, that's after several applications. Let's call that a near miss. I don't know what you want to call it. It did help a little, but it really didn't do that good a job. So that's worth a try. And still, once you get that in the radio, it's going to look fine. Next little task is to clean up this front faceplate. I'm not really sure what this is made of. I assume it's brass, but it may not be. I'm not certain. But I tried earlier a little test spot on the top here, and it really seemed to do the trick. Got it nice and clean, so I know that's going to work. So I tried with just a towel to use this, I think it's called blue metal polish cream, but it just didn't hardly make a difference on this front. So I had to break out the steel wool to go over it, but it did finally clean it up. So that needs just a little more work, but it's almost there. So once that was done, I'm going to put some lacquer on it, so hopefully it won't tarnish or turn back to what it was before. So we'll put a couple of coats of that on there just for protection. Takes a little bit of the shine off, but I think it's worth it. Then all outdoor tasks must be supervised by somebody, so helping me today was Roscoe the Wonder Dog, so he's watching me work. Good boy. It's not a video with a Reassemble, but I'll just show you some pictures. This was a new dial that I bought, and I installed really easy. This is a little plastic piece that the dial lamp shines through. It's got to be glued down in place, and the front cover, that brass part, will go over that. We're going to staple in the grill cloth. This is the new dial cover, plastic. It's raised instead of flat, but I think it'll fit. And I just use thumbtacks to put it down in there. Chassis slides in, no sweat. Screw in the chassis screws. The old back I couldn't save, so I bought a new one. So there's the new one, and easy, of course, to reinstall it. It fit perfect. So it's going on, and the little push pin feet go back in, and of course, the knobs go back on, and that's pretty much it. So that's the radio put back together. Now, what's the one thing we're missing? Well, I didn't change any of the electronic parts. I didn't do anything on the underside of the chassis. Um, I checked, you know, voltages. They were good. I checked the tubes. They were good. Um, I checked the alignment by ear on a weak station. It was spot on. There was no hum. And so I know it's going to be a point of contention, but well, let's do some math. Let's do some math here. So this is the year 2020, which has been a fabulous year, incidentally, minus when this radio was built, 1946. This is 74 years old, and it's still working with all its original pieces. And I know that this hobby would say, well, you know, they're going to fail. You might as well, you got to change them while you're in there. But I'd like to do an experiment on this and see if it's gone for 74 years with everything original, minus maybe one or two tubes that were replaced along the way. I'd like to see how long this thing will last. I didn't epoxy this thing up, you know, when I put it back together. So next week, if something goes wrong, I'll open it back up and I'll make a repair. And if that happens 10 years from now, I can still make the repair. But I'd like to see how long this thing can go because it's doing so well on its original components. And so maybe that won't be long, but what if it's another 10 years or 20 years? It has, what, 26 years to make it to 100 with its original components. You'll say, well, it'll never, you know, no, it'll never do that. But it's made it 74 years already. So don't hate me, but I'm just going to leave the electronic parts alone just as they are. And we're going to see how long this thing will survive. So if you won't get after me, I tell you what I'll do next is I'll go in my stash of radios. I have a bunch, and I will pick out the worst possible radio I've got that needs everything inside and out. And I'll do that one, and that'll be more normal. But for now, I'm going to just, you know, this is nice. I'm going to use it, and we'll just see how long it goes on. What if I break down my collection in, I don't know, 20 years when I downsize or something like that, and it's still working, and I can pass it to somebody and say, hey, this is still running off its original electronics. So who knows? We'll see. So anyway, let's fire it up and see what it sounds like.
These same stations.
Maybe we were wrong about this Cardinal. Volunteered when they baptized Sister Lucy Lee. Strangled and she rolled in my. She hollered, brother, that's where your duty lies. And she gave 3 cheers, and the crowd volunteered when they baptized Sister Lucy Lee.
Thanks for watching, everybody. I sure do appreciate it.